The Los Angeles Rams will be trading Cooper Kupp, and the Dallas Cowboys are the best fit. I'll explain why on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso, with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the brain, Luke Braun. On today's episode, we're going to tell you why we think it's nonsense that the Chiefs get all the calls, rank the best players in the Super Bowl, but we will start with this Cooper Kupp trade situation. I'm going to tell you why I think the Dallas Cowboys are the best fit. Before we get into it, though, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use the code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Luke, I led with it. I think that the Dallas Cowboys are the best fit for Cooper Kupp. But first, what was your initial reaction when you saw the Cooper Kupp news?
I think I let out like a very weary, yeah. You could kind of tell by the way the Rams season went down the stretch that Puka had taken the mantle of like the guy in LA. For whatever reason, you know, the targets went down. Any fantasy players, I mean, if you were in your fantasy playoffs, my God, did you hear about Cooper Kupp? Just kind of not being the same guy. And for whatever reason, I don't know if a relationship soured or if he just kind of got real old real fast or something like that, but I don't think he's that old. Like, I think he's 30. Like,
it's the injury issue is really what makes it. So we could say, you know, Cooper Kupp is only, 30, 31 years old. He's 31 now. So, I mean, he'll turn 32 in June. That's a little bit older than maybe people think, but the injuries add years on to that. So to me, he's like 34.
Yeah. I get it. I guess I get it. And we'll see what they can get. But for Kupp, I don't know if I would be very excited to go anywhere that isn't like a contender. I don't really want to like flounder on a dying Cowboys team.
Well,
but he doesn't have a lot of control.
I'm going to explain exactly why I think the Dallas Cowboys are a good fit. And I think you're underselling their potential to win some games here. But more importantly than that, it does feel like the end of an era in Los Angeles. And my guy Doug McCain from Locked On Rams talked about this big news.
Cooper Kupp is most likely not going to be on the Rams next season. And how do we know this? Well, Cooper Kupp went to his own social media to reveal that the Rams are looking to trade him immediately. Cooper Kupp was one of the first guys that you really wanted to buy his jersey and that you really wanted to have be one of your favorite players when the Rams returned to Los Angeles. You look at 2021, Triple Crown winner, 145 catches, 1,947 receiving yards, had 16 touchdowns. He was incredible. Unfortunately, it's the time after that which is leading to the news that we got today. 2022, he struggled to stay on the field. He played just 9 games. Then he missed training camp in parts of 2023, missed time during training camp. 2024, the same thing with the injury. He's only played in 12 games in each of the last 2 seasons. And then you add the fact that you're seeing someone that struggles to get separation, struggles to have any sort of explosive play. Then you add the fact that he's entering his age 32 season. So you combine all those factors with the contract situation that he's currently in. Well, it's not a surprise that the Rams are going this direction.
But with that being said, with all that taken into account, it does make sense. But that's going to matter when you talk about trade compensation too. This isn't going to be a situation where the Rams are getting high-level draft picks for Cooper Kupp, considering all those things that are obvious, which I use that to say this. open your mind here. Team's salary cap may not be right, not a ton of draft capital up top, all that. That may not matter when it comes to making this deal. And actually, we're already hearing reports that the Rams are willing to eat a big chunk of the $40 million that Cooper Kupp is still owed to make sure that they can get a trade done. So with that in mind,
have to.
Again, the Dallas Cowboys, they need a secondary wide receiver outside of CeeDee Lamb with Brandon Cooks hitting free agency. I think you're going to need some additional. You got a first-time play caller here. You're a first-time head coach here who's going to be taking over play calling duties. You need to give him as much talent as you possibly can. It's not going to be that expensive. And dang it, the Dallas Cowboys said they were all in last year and they did nothing. So it's time to pay that off and actually help their team. I think that the Cowboys in the NFC can find a way to win 10 games and get into the playoffs. I think that they have enough talent on their roster to do that if they get some decent level coaching. I think they probably would have been right around that this year if Dak Prescott doesn't get hurt. So I think that Cooper Kupp does make a ton of sense for the Dallas Cowboys. The question for me is, would the Rams trade him within the NFC?
I have some really existential worries about the Cowboys, and we don't have to make this a Cowboys segment, but
right.
You know, I have worries about how much Dak Prescott can really accomplish. Can he stay healthy is a huge question mark now. I mean, how many of these seasons have we had? Well, if Dak stayed healthy. And times when he has stayed healthy, they've been kind of maybe, they sneak into the playoffs or whatever, even with a lot of talent around him, CeeDee Lamb or before. It would be a good receiver core. I don't know if I'm an old guy like Cooper Kupp. I mean, you're joining a bunch of other old guys because I got questions on that defense too.
And no state taxes in Texas. So, maybe he's like, hey, I'm not going to win no matter what. I just want my money. What are other options then? What are other teams that you think are a better fit for Cooper Kupp?
Cincinnati. If they let T. Higgins go and they want somebody that's not going to cost maybe as much in money, but maybe they're willing to shell out a little bit more of a draft pick, they're going to want a compliment, right? This is what Cooper Kupp has to be, is a compliment to somebody, to the real guy. And so the Bengals are going to have the real guy. They're going to get something done with Jamar Chase. They're not that stupid. But if they let T. Higgins walk, that might be a nice replacement there. And let me be clear. I don't think the Cowboys are not an option for those teams. I just look at that and I go, it's kind of a waste of Cooper Kupp because there's bigger problems going on in Dallas. I
want to see him in a better situation. I get it. But Cincinnati makes sense. But obviously Joe Burrow's better quarterback than Dak Prescott, but they have their own issues. What about the Steelers? I mean, the Steelers were like the favored team to get him with the trade deadline. He could still be the complement piece to George Pickens, who's more of the downfield vertical threat. And Cooper Kupp can go over the middle. The Ravens as well maybe could use even more firepower because it's never enough for Lamar Jackson. He always needs more. It's not his fault. I thought maybe the Broncos could add a Cooper Kupp because Cortland Sutton is kind of a different style of player. So that could make sense. And it's AFC, so the Rams don't have to worry. And then, of course, you have, the Bills, the Commanders. Maybe they want to upgrade more than a Cooper Kupp style, and they want Terry McLaurin to be the Cooper Kupp per se of what we're trying. But
they might be kind of low-key pretty happy with that room in Washington.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would be too terrible. Daimi Brown proved that he could be kind of a downfield threat as well. He's going to be a free agent, but they could certainly sign him back for a value deal. Olamide Zaccheaus is a free agent, but they could bring him back as well. The Patriots, though, is a team I wanted to throw in there because you get Drake May, a chain-moving target. Cooper Kupp seems like a New England Patriot. It's
Adam Thielen, Bryce Young, part two.
Yeah,
a veteran whose last couple years in this league are just bringing along a young guy.
Yes, and the Patriots will have the money to do it and the draft capital to do it. Yeah. And Mike Vrabel might want some veteran players that he can rely on in there. So maybe that would make some sense. Out of all of those, which is your favorite fit?
The Broncos got a reaction from me. That makes a ton of sense with the style that with what Sean Payton wants to do with Bo Nix is very chain movie, right? They're not necessarily they'll hit a post sometimes over the top.
They have Marvin Mims for the downfield threat and Troy Franklin as well. They don't need that in the offense.
Yeah, one of those guys might make the team next year. So I'm going to be a Troy Franklin hater for the rest of my life.
That's fine. I don't like small, skinny guys anyway. So look at me. Do I look like I like small, skinny guys?
Oh,
no.
Wow. Now it's getting personal. Damn. But I like a more serious option with Cortland Sutton there. And I think that fits a lot angles wise of what they want to do with Bo Nix in terms of like if they want to expand the way they attack the middle of the field with Bo Nix. I think Cooper Kupp is a great like conduit for that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. I think it would make a ton of sense. Honestly, I'm down for Cooper Kupp in Denver. So maybe I'll change my mind and go from Dallas to Denver. I'm in for that. But with that being said, time to put the focus back on the Super Bowl after hitting the big NFL news. Who are the best players in the Super Bowl? Of course, Mahomes is number one. But after that, it's a whole lot of Eagles. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Are you looking for tickets to your next big event? Maybe last-minute tickets to the big game this week, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, a sports game. Finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache, but with Gametime Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Gametime Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat. Couldn't believe the value. Also, they have a panoramic view from your seat. It's a game changer. Before you even hit buy, you can see exactly what you're going to be looking at. Ready to make your next event even better? Download the Gametime app today. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. It's last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. All right, Luke, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We went over some Cooper Kupp landing spots, Dallas, Denver, make a ton of sense in there. But now we do want to shift our focus to the Super Bowl this weekend. I thought it would be an interesting thought experiment here to look at who the best players in this game actually are and which side they stack up on. Before we dive in, thanks again for making Locked On NFL your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, NFL content all year round, always for free. It's your team every day here on the Locked On NFL podcast. But with that being said, Patrick Mahomes is clearly number one, Luke. I think it's best to just exclude him. He would clearly be number one on the list. But outside of Patrick Mahomes, who is the best player in the game?
We probably have the same answer for this, right? It's Saquon, right?
No, we do not have.
Oh, really?
Answer. We do not.
Okay.
No.
I'm curious because I'm sure there's a player that I'm just like forgetting about that because it feels to me like Saquon is far and away the best at his job. Now you want to do a positional value thing, you can, but we're not doing that here, right? We're doing just who's the best player at what they're being asked to do. Mm-hmm. And Saquon is taking a position that shouldn't be a game changer and making it into a game changer. There's not really anybody in the league that's doing what Saquon's doing.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That's completely fair. What it comes down to for me is if you have, and we were talking about how we want to look at this, and it's like the number one running back in the NFL may not have as much value as like the number 3 pass rusher in the NFL. But right. Saquon Barkley being the best of his position gives him that advantage. But for me, in this scenario, in playoff football, Chris Jones is the best interior pass rusher in the entire NFL, period, in these scenarios. Maybe during the regular season, you catch him week 10 on the road against the Panthers or something. Maybe not. But in this scenario, he is. So to me, I'm comparing the best running back that's available in these scenarios and the best interior pass rusher that's available in these scenarios. And I value the pass rush more. So I have Chris Jones as the best player in the Super Bowl outside of Patrick Mahomes. And that comes down to just my personal philosophy of, hey, if it's number one against number one, which production do I value more? I'll go with Chris Jones, but Saquon Barkley is my number 2.
Yeah, so I have Chris Jones number 2. So I think that at least that's like clear. But I don't know if it like, I think you can make a Dexter Lawrence argument about, I think it's a little more arguable. I guess you can make the Derrick Henry argument too against Saquon. So
yeah, that would be the argument.
I suppose they're in kind of this.
But we've never seen Dexter Lawrence in these circumstances. Would he step up and have the
that's
production
Daniel Jones' fault
in the regular season? Yeah, I know. You can't blame him for that. But I also can elevate Chris Jones for that while not blaming Dexter Lawrence for that.
I have personally, with my live eye, was at a playoff game where Dexter Lawrence took it over and completely made that game his own. So, I mean, I have seen it. Get a serious quarterback, get him on a team with a serious quarterback and get him to a Super Bowl, and we'll see what they do.
Maybe this year, Shedeur Sanders, come on down.
Let's go. But
they love him.
Nothing against Chris Jones anyways. Yeah, so I guess you put him in a similar tier there, and we have them both 1 or 2. Third, I think I have a spicy one, and I don't know how much you're gonna like it.
You tell me your third then.
Because I think this is the marquee matchup of the Super Bowl. This is the strength on strength, one of the best players on his team versus one of the best players on his team. And it's going to be the guy going up against Chris Jones a lot, Landon Dickerson.
Okay.
I think you want to talk about banning the tush push. You got to ban Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson is the reason for that. I think he's genuinely one of, if not the best guards in the league. He's a bona fide superstar to me. Even
we might have the 2 best guards in the entire league playing in this game.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe 2. Honestly, 3 of the top, like with Joe Tooney, who might be the best in the league, and then Trey Smith, who is also maybe a top 5 guard in the league.
I think there are some Detroit Lions that have something to say about that, but
I mean, okay. I guess so. I think their argument, more obviously, they got the dominant right tackle. But that's funny that you pick an Eagles offensive lineman because my third player is Lane Johnson. I got Lane Johnson at right tackle.
Thought about it.
As my third best player. So either way, we're representing the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line in the fact that we both have 2 players at number 3, but 2 different players. And I mean, Jordan Mailata is absolutely incredible. Like their offensive line is just absolutely stacked. But from there, it gets interesting because I think my number 4 is kind of spicy. It's Jalen Carter.
He's probably 6 for me.
Our thoughts on Jalen Carter are what they were at the beginning of this year. Ascending player, showed flashes. No, I think we're through that. I think we've seen this back half of the season and what he did in the NFC Championship game. Like Jalen Carter may be the best interior defensive lineman in the NFL next year. So I think I'm a little ahead of the game in the way that we talk about Jalen Carter. I think Jalen Carter could have been even a spot higher for me. I consider putting Jalen Carter at number 2 ahead of Saquon because what I think he could do impact-wise in this game. I'm going with Jalen Carter at number 4, though. So I have Chris Jones, Saquon, Lane Johnson, Jalen Carter. So 3 straight Eagles after 1 Chief.
I only still have the 1 Chief. I got 4 Eagles. I went a little more chalk with my 4th. I went with AJ Brown.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not far behind you.
Yeah. And then for number 5, I went for Zach Bond. I think he's having something of a breakout year right now.
Yeah, absolutely. He probably was the best middle linebacker in the NFL this year, or at least I think he got first team All-Pro. So, I mean, he's at least one of the top 2.
If Chiefs fans are mad, I flirted a lot with Nick Bolton too. And like that is absolutely a recognizable guy. Trent McDuffie is on my radar here. There's a lot of good players here. I know I went 4 Chiefs, 4 Eagles, 1 Chief. We by rule had to remove the most important Chief, so don't be too mad.
Right, of course. Well, that's funny because at number 5, I'm still debating AJ Brown or Travis Kelce. I know before the show you kind of poo-pooed Travis Kelce as a player, but in these moments he is going to be one of the top 5 or 6 players. But here's the thing I want to mention.
It's late stage Jason Witten. It's a different role. He's older.
I can't quite go there.
He's it's just what happens with tight ends when they get old. They become still very much useful players. Players that can get open, that can do separation, that can block, but they become less the focal point of the offense than they used to be, which is what we're seeing more things go through Hollywood Brown or Xavier Worthy, or just Mahomes running on his own, the run game. Like you see it kind of become less the Kansas City Travis Kelce's like they kind of were for a couple of years ago. And the fact that Kelce got to this age and still was that guy for as long as he was is very impressive, but time comes for us all.
Luke. Neither one of us has mentioned Jalen Hurts.
Nope.
Okay.
And consistent.
My guy Louie from Locked On Eagles would probably say that is insane considering Jalen Hurts' status if he wins this game.
Rings is mostly a quarterback thing, and it's a head coaching thing. So for Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, there's a lot on the line. If Jalen Hurts can get his first ring by beating Patrick Mahomes, again, one of the two greatest players, I think, in NFL history, to stop a three-peat, that does so much for his legacy. We have to start talking about, and I think with him and Sirianni to a degree, there is always going to be this small minority, loud group of people that try to take away, discredit what they have done based on the strength of the support system they have with Howie Roseman and with this roster. There will be a small, loud minority that still doesn't give these two credit if they win this ring, but it won't matter. It will be factual now if they get this ring that these are two of the greatest to ever do it. You got to start talking Hall of Fame status with Jalen.
Now, to Louis' defense, I know that may sound crazy, but he listed the stats in this episode. Go check out Locked On Eagles to get ready. But Jalen Hurts is top 7 in win percentage in his career. He's already near the top in terms of quarterback rushing touchdowns. He's only about 20 away from Cam Newton all time and will likely break that record. Jalen Hurts will be at the top of the NFL quarterback rankings and certain valuable statistics. So I think it's possible Jalen Hurts has been underrated at this point, but he's still not in my top 5 players. I would probably have him at number 7.
Yeah,
if we kept the list going.
We're talking about guys who are the best, undisputed at their position. And I don't
Right.
think anybody would say that about Hurts. Hey, top 7, top 10 guy. But to Louis' credit, yeah, you take a top 10 quarterback and give him one ring, you have a Hall of Fame case. But that one ring is doing a lot more than being the top 10 quarterback is. So yeah, win a ring, you get a Hall of Fame case. But I don't know if that's a differentiating factor for Jalen Hurts over, somebody else who you would think of as the 5th best, Joe Burrow too, probably. But it's about the ring for those guys.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you there. But with that being said, do the Kansas City Chiefs really get all the calls? We're going to dive into a recent article and tell you why you're all crybabies. First, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, PrizePicks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. PrizePicks even has a free pick. That's right, a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw for 1 yard for you to win. If you pair that with one more correct pick, you're already cashing out. I'm going to do more on Travis Kelce receiving yards and then the more for Patrick Mahomes to throw for more than 1 yard. And if I win, when I win, I can cash out in as little as 15 minutes. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, Luke, let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about Cooper Kupp trade spots. We ranked the best players in the Super Bowl outside of Patrick Mahomes. But now we just want to talk about the constant narrative that has happened over the last few weeks that the Kansas City Chiefs get all the help from the referees. And actually, my guys over at Locked On Chiefs mentioned that exactly.
I find it interesting that people think that the fix is in because it's Eagles, Chiefs again, like it was a couple of seasons ago. I saw some of the same rumblings last year, but all the ref stuff I think makes it just more potent this season. Patrick is Patrick, and he leads the way. It doesn't matter whether they surge at week 8 or week 12 and they get the bye and they're better after that, or if they wait this year, which feels like it was really, really long.
I mean, it did take quite some time for Kansas City's offense to kind of click on like it has in the playoffs here. But overall, I disagree with the narrative that the referees are helping the Chiefs or the fix is in. And I know, Luke, you recently looked at an article that kind of hinted at that as well.
Yeah, I found it really persuasive. An article from Roger Sherman at The Ringer that I think does a good job of calmly breaking this down with a little bit of nuance and a little bit. So I'll give you at least the spark notes. For one, there's a stat that the Chiefs have actually lost win probability from flags over the course of the season. So if you removed refs, the Chiefs would actually benefit from that. So I think that already kind of says like, okay, there's nothing super untoward going on here. The data does not show that. I think if you genuinely do think that there's something untoward going on, then I've got a bridge to sell you, but I don't buy it. Late in games, here's what's happening. There are a couple of particularly high profile moments where the refs essentially turn the mic on and say Chiefs win, right? Like having to review week 1 against the Ravens, Isaiah Likely out by a toe. And that becomes a moment where it feels, even though it's the correct call, it feels like the refs are coming on and saying, touchdown overturned and giving the game directly to, like, it's so direct feeling that it starts to creep in. And as humans, we are very predisposed to notice patterns. It's our lizard brains are very good at going, hey, every time I walk by that bush, I get bitten by a snake, and that's useful information, right? So we often will find patterns where there are not patterns. I always think about the famous college professor that divides his math class in half and has one half flip a coin a bunch of times and the other half has to make it look like they flip a coin a bunch of times and fake it. And he can always tell which one is real because the people who fake it never do a streak. Streaks happen, right?
Right.
I always think about that phenomenon with these kinds of things. But there have been a couple of really high profile moments. I think most of them were the right call. I think about like the AFC Championship a couple years ago. Joseph Osai hits Patrick Mahomes out of bounds. If they didn't call that would be rigged. So just because it favors the same team over and over, they do get a big help from defensive holding penalties. That is a facet of having smaller receivers. Big corners want to play the little guy physical, and they're going to get flagged. And teams are probably actually okay with that on defense and say, well, we'll take a couple flags. We'll do that. But it's going to, that's the only place where the data really favors the Chiefs. And it's like super explainable and understandable. Yep. So no, the Chiefs are not rigged. Okay. They're not getting the calls because Taylor Swift is in the thing. Everyone's just kind of being babies about the Chiefs. It actually annoys me quite a bit. Everyone just wants to complain. Stop complaining. The Chiefs they rule. They're such a cool team. Awesome. Patrick Mahomes is one of the most fun quarterbacks we've ever seen in our whole life. Andy Reid is a fun coach. He's a good guy. He's likable. Yep. And yes, they cut to a celebrity in the press box every once in a while. Get over it, you losers. It's okay to see a woman on TV. My God, grow up.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And honestly, you kind of knocked on a door that I opened earlier this week or last week. So I'm a Lakers fan. And for the dawn of time in the NBA, and especially now over the last few years, the Lakers lead the NBA in free throw attempts. They're clearly getting all the calls. The NBA wants the Lakers to be good. It's good for business. So, but you go back to the free throw disparities of the Shaq, Kobe Lakers against some of their opponents in the playoffs, and people have been crying about it for forever.
Giving Shaq free throws was like a strategy, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They would literally do it on purpose. When he goes to the basket, he's going to dunk and slam you into the ground, Hawk smash style, or, okay, let him shoot. But even the current Lakers, Anthony Davis, who is not a Laker anymore, but has been for the last 6 years, and LeBron James go to the basket a lot. They go to the basket a ton, and LeBron James is hard to defend, so he gets fouled. Okay, that's why. It's like, not only do the Chiefs have small wide receivers, but they have probably the best off-schedule playmaking quarterback of all time. So, of course, it's going to put more pressure on your cornerbacks to hold and stick with corners longer, and then you add in the small things. So, I'm with you. It's my team's not as good as that team. I'm sick of them winning. They're an incredibly likable team. They're incredibly fun. A lot of the players on the team are just good dudes that don't do bad things like that would make you dislike them. Yeah, we're all just crying. Everyone's just crying about nothing. Shut up. Enjoy the dynasty. Enjoy the great football. Luke, I'm going to get us both out of here with this. I asked every host all week, make your prediction. Who wins the game?
I think the wrong team is favored. I think the Eagles, top to bottom, are better except for the quarterback position. I think Jalen Hurts is at least close enough to Patrick Mahomes to make up enough of that deficit where the roster can get there. I might be the only person in the world that actually kind of digs this matchup. I think it's cool.
Now,
I'm super happy. I'm super happy to get it again.
I love this.
This was sick last time. That game ruled last time. Let's do that again.
Great. Yes.
And I think and I think this is a better, a more realized version of the Eagles. I'm going to go with the Eagles. I don't think it's going to be by a lot. I'll go with the Eagles by like 3. Do I need to do a score? I'd rather not. I'll go with the Eagles. You don't have to.
I'd rather you do Super Bowl MVP.
Ooh. Saquon. Let's go.
Okay.
Running back, baby.
Let's go.
No, it'll be
It's a
Hurts
new-
if they win.
it's-
But let me
it'll be Saquon.
go off the beaten path.
It'll be Saquon. Yeah, let's go. That's just so you know, though. Louis, obviously, you know where his allegiance is going to lie and what he's going to pick. I mean, but then Lauren yesterday, Eagles. You today, Eagles. Michelle is a very data-driven person, the data queen herself.
Oh, she'll go Eagles, yeah.
I'm going to
both those teams are pretty analytics forward, but yeah. Well, okay, last time I did this, though,
at the end of the week,
I was the only person to pick against the Chiefs, and I was wrong. So maybe I'm just going with the crowd now. I picked against the Chiefs. I didn't pick the Texans, but against the Chiefs. Yeah. But going in to the playoffs, I was like, this will be a one and done team. So I picked against the Chiefs this whole playoffs, and I'm going to continue to, and I'm just going to die on it if they win. If that's how it goes down, I'm going to go down with my ship. Okay, I'm not backing off.
Just die with it. Heck yeah, I love it. All right, that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. Tomorrow, we're going to dive into some numbers that might decide the Super Bowl. I'll have the data queen, Michelle Madju, previously mentioned here on the show. But that's going to do it for us today. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed to the Locked On NFL podcast. For me, your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, my co-host, Luke Braun. Thanks for tuning in. And as I tell you every episode, stay safe out there.